Pudge, Pudge, Pudge. Everyone knows him, a lot of people love him, and a lot of people hate him. It's safe to say that ever since the complete rework of the formerly much despised techies, Pudge has almost taken his place as one of the more annoying picks people have to deal with in pubs. Plenty of people try to play Pudge as a support, but ever since his new additions in recent patches, Pudge is moving closer and closer to becoming more like a core hero yet again. Let's dive into a hefty pub game and see what a Pudge mid can look like from one of the best ranked players out there, TOPSON.
To start off with, TOPSON has a bit of a tricky matchup, a Broodmother. While it's unlikely that TOPSON will die to Broodmother prior to her level 6, pay close attention at just how tricky the Brood is with their denial patterns in the beginning of the laning stage. This certainly isn't going to be an easy lane for TOPSON to win the lane against, really. TOPSON goes about even with Broodmother mid, which is pretty good for him so far. He then proceeds to go out to get a small camp, so he gets a little bit more farm than the Broodmother on mid. He will then also proceed to get a River Rune before then proceeding back to the mid lane to farm against her yet again. Moving ahead a few minutes, and it's easy to see that TOPSON isn't having the easiest of times handling a Brood mid with Pudge. He keeps making good use of the small cap that's available to him, and what is also interesting is that you'll see how he cheekily decides to use his hook to farm one of the Radiant's jungle camps, which means Brood and have Precision 1 will have less farm to get when they arrive there. It's quite clever. TOPSON is now using his triangle a lot more to farm, and mid is essentially what you could say is over, as both mids aren't really playing the lane at all anymore. TOPSON tries to get a triple stack going, misses it just barely, and keeps on farming. He's basically trying to get as much farm as he humanly can right now. Having gotten a kill early on Visage, and now at 8 minutes into the game, TOPSON is playing very aggressive in order to achieve kills and rack up the number on his Flesh Sheep passive. Notice just how much pressure he's applying on the enemy tier 1 here. He essentially refuses to leave here and practically bets people to come and challenge him. Moving further ahead here, TOPSON is now applying even more pressure to the enemy by forcing himself fully into their jungle, thus rendering their carries unable to farm very safely and efficiently. He even grabs a kill on Wisp in the process. TOPSON keeps being very active against the enemy, but the enemy Brood he's up against is equally relentless in her aggression, and makes TOPSON fall back to his tier 3 top tower in order to defend it together with his Enchantress. TOPSON and Brood are essentially back to laning against one another. Since the Brood has taken over his entire jungle with her webs, TOPSON has equally decided to make it his new base of operations. With Vanguard present on him and currently going for an Aghanim's as his next item, the two players are both trying to find an opportunity to either distract or kill one another. This works out for TOPSON though in the end, since he has a bounty hunter on his side and they're able to nab a very important kill on the Broodmother. Another attempt is made on the Broodmother, bounty hunter falling in behind TOPSON yet again. This time, however, Brood is aware of the plan that they have to kill her, and she's able to slip out of the otherwise risky situation she actually finds herself in, managing to even get a kill on bounty in the process. However, with that said, their Necrophos comes when she's least prepared for him, and she ends up dying after all. About 17 minutes into the game, an interesting fight occurs close to his tier 1 tower on bottom. TOPSON attempts to get a kill on Visage, but not without the enemy Wisp and Void having a say in it. Although the fight initially starts as a 3-on-1, TOPSON here showcases just how tanky Pudge can be when he comes into early mid game pretty well. He ends up picking a kill on Visage and wastes Void's time and Chronosphere in the process. TOPSON has now acquired an Aghanim's, which is an absolutely amazing yet terrifying item on Pudge right now, due to the sheer damage it provides the hero with. His team is now trying to clash with theirs, and the prolonged teamfight that ensues after a lengthy chasing ends up with Void and Wisp dying in the process, which is really good for the Dire team. Yet another fight occurs where Brood is picked off initially before the main fight even really starts, which gives a huge advantage to the Dire team as a result. I want you to pay close attention to just how tanky TOPSON is in this stage of the game. Given just how much damage he's putting out every second, paired with how tanky he is, this shows how truly scary Pudge can be when he's having a good game going for him. TOPSON attempts to heat up the pace of the game now and starts to play very aggressive around enemy mid tier 2. The enemy Brood he's up against has other plans though, and although TOPSON does attempt to kill her as he teleports back to defend his towers against her, he's unable to ult her as she is very quick on her fingers and silence TOPSON before he gets the chance to do so. At about 3.5 minutes into the game, disaster finally strikes for TOPSON's team, and Void managed to land a very lethal and devastating Chronosphere on the majority of his team. As much of a loss as this is for TOPSON and the Dire team, it is downright scary just how close it was to going TOPSON's way, purely due to the tankability and the damage per second provided as Pudge. Jumping further ahead past 27 minutes, the game is now going rather slow compared to how it was prior to this. The teams are more content with playing a bit safer. TOPSON does manage to pick up a cheeky kill on Clockwork all the same though, by waddling himself into his jungle. Our beloved hero now also has a BKB. After a failed teamfight and a dead Necro at 28 minutes into the game, another losing fight occurs for the Dire team. TOPSON has used his BKB in the initial fight and is now unable to use it in order to keep himself alive as the enemy chases after him. Yet again, the footage shows just how absurdly TOPSON currently is on the tank scale, and while he does go down, the enemy clearly has to work pretty damn hard for it. That said, even though Brood acquired the Aegis as a result of the winning fight she had prior against the Dire team, she is no match for the might of TOPSON, Pudge and his allies, and she doesn't just go down once either, she goes down twice, Aegis and all. This swings the game very powerfully back into the favor of the Dire team. And then it sort of just happens. After initially being unable to kill Immortal Faith on Enchantress, TOPSON is going to prove that he's reached peak Pudge at this stage of the game, as the enemy retreat back to their tier 2 for safety. TOPSON won't have any of it though, and relentlessly pursues them. Even though Void attempts to call him on this, he ends up regretting this as TOPSON is just way too tanky at this stage of the game, and runs them over, completely like he's a damn lawnmower. TOPSON decides to casually farm up a hardest harass to make sure that he gets to a point in the game where the enemy won't have enough swinging power to win against him any longer, due to him being too tanky. Even while he's doing this at about 34 minutes into the game, his team is able to kill the enemy without him really even being present. 36 minutes into the game, we get our last big fight of the game, as TOPSON jumps headfirst into the enemy base with all his acquired power throughout the game. He's unbelievably tanky at this point, and while the enemy actually do manage to bring him down, the consequences of doing so are very, very apparent, as his team is able to pick up the pieces and make sure the game is a win in the process. Flying back to put a lid on the game for good, TOPSON ports to the enemy outpost under his control before he casually strides into the enemy team with something to prove. They all absolutely melt to the power of the Dire team, and the game shortly thereafter becomes a win to the Dire team at 38 minutes and 27 seconds of game time.
I hope you were able to pick up some good information from TOPSON's strong showcase of Pudge in this video. What do you think of Pudge in the current meta? Do you love him? Do you hate him? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to see more content, I have a live stream at Twitch TV FabKyobashi, or follow me here on YouTube, and upvote is always highly appreciated too, of course. You can also expect new videos to come out every Saturday. Have a pleasant day.